So, Jared, we talked last time kind of about wrapping up after a year ends and kind of looking backwards and trying to figure out what are the learnings that we had in that, whatever that time period is.
Yeah.
You and I are big believers in kind of that Walt Disney quote of, around here, we never look backwards too long. We always kind of move forward and open up other doors. How do you look at that? When do you actually close the door on what's happened in the past and start looking forward? What's your process there?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, I don't know if you ever really close the door 100%, but I would say, and it's kind of what we talked about before, is once you look back at what your prior year looked like, give it a grade, figure out what needed to be true to have a better grade.
Yeah.
Then you take, those are kind of the gold nuggets of the year, right? If you had a bad year, crappy year, whatever, there's still gold in there that you need to take out and use to get better. Yeah. So I think whenever you have completed that task, like, hey, this is where my year was at, this is what I need to be true going forward to make it better, then let's look straight out the windshield the next year. Yeah. Right? And I think the key point is, I think what a lot of people do is just don't get extremely intentional on setting goals. Right. On goals is a cliche. It's a big word, right? People just throw it around. But I would just say, what goals or what fixes do you need to make? Yeah. Right? In one of the videos we did where we talked about the look back, you referenced revenue cycle management on a group of practices, right? And let's say that is one of the things that needs to be true, that needs to be fixed, that needs to be improved upon to make next year better. What specifically are you going to do to fix revenue cycle management? Your goal cannot be to fix revenue cycle management.
That's not very specific, right?
That's not specific at all, right? You're going to have to dive deep into what's broken and then what specifically needs to be fixed in order to figure out what you need to do, right? So I think a lot of mistakes I see is people just get too broad on their goals. And they're just like, well, I'm going to fix revenue cycle management. Well, the problem with doing that is you're not going to get deliberate at all. Yeah. And then 1 quarter, 2 quarters is going to go by, and you're still going to be like, remember, guys, we need to fix that. Yeah. Revenue cycle management. So the opposite of that would be, okay, diving in deep on what's broken, right? We IDS things around here, right? Yep. Traction-based business is what we use. What's broken and what do we need to specifically fix? And then how are we going to fix that on a set time period? Yep. I'm a firm believer, I say this all the time and probably too much, but reverse engineer into the things you need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to hit those goals. Yeah. Right? And it could be, let's say the first quarter of revenue cycle management that you need to improve upon is let's just say your collections percentage is, say last year your collections percentage was 85%, right? I think a good bite-sized goal would be, well, let's say in Q1, let's try to collect like 88%. Yeah. Right? But then you got to get deeper. Like, okay, if I'm going to do 88%, what needs to change? Yep. Get your team involved. Oh crap, we realize this process that we're doing is really a huge issue, right? With us not doing this or this person not doing this in the right period of time, then that's what's causing our issue. Boom, right there. Right. That is something you need to work on specifically, right? Put somebody in charge of that. Yep. Not you. Put somebody in charge of that to oversee that and to make it better. And then every single week, kind of have a touch point. Yeah. Are we getting better at this, right? How is this improving? Are we implementing that process? Are we doing this better? No, we're not. Well, why not, right? Hold those people accountable. Yeah. And that's how you're going to slowly see progress.
I think that's extremely well said. And I kind of look at it, and we call it the difference between like areas of focus and goals when we're talking to folks, because I do think it's okay to have a general theme that this is going to be a year where we're going to focus on revenue cycle management. So it's an area of focus that we're going to put some intentionality about. But like you said, saying we're going to focus on revenue cycle management, that's a very broad concept that can be broken down at an extremely granular level. And I think that's what probably is intimidating to people, because it's easy to say we're going to focus on revenue cycle management and hard to get people where they're not on board with that, right? I mean, let's do it. It's that heavy lifting, rolling up your sleeves to get down at that granular level, whether it's revenue cycle management or team issues or whatever, that becomes hard. So when people are looking at this, it's probably intimidating to get that 100%. Granular, whether it's from time constraints or whatever. So what's your best piece of advice for people who have never done this? I mean, you kind of walk through that revenue cycle management like component of how you break it down, but some people are like, how do I even get started to, setting these goals and kind of getting some accountability in place? So what would be your best advice to even get started?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of people run into the issue of, let's go back to that exercise of looking back on prior years. They write all these different things down.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I need to fix that. Oh, it could have been an A if I would have done this and this and this.
Yeah.
And then you look down and you got like 10 things on your list, right? I think the number one mistake I see people make is trying to do too much at once.
Great point.
Just right at the beginning.
Yep.
And they get all ambitious at the beginning of the year and like, man, I'm going to have a rock solid first quarter. And what are you going to achieve? Well, I'm going to do this, and this. And once I get all those things done, man, I'm going to be so much better. Well, the issue with doing all those things at once is there's only so much time, right?
Yeah.
And only so much areas of focus or areas that you can focus on, right? And I think the end of the day, what usually happens in that effect is that they maybe got one of them done halfway, and the other, and then they're disappointed because they're like, man, I had so much, I was so eager, I was so ready to go and get all these things done, and man, I only got maybe one of them of those 5 done, and I just failed, right? Well, you set yourself up for failure by doing that, I think. So I think the number one thing you need to do, it's fine to jot down all these different things, right, about what you need to fix and what you need to improve upon. The key thing to do is then focus on one thing. And what's the one big thing you can improve? I'll say in Q1, right, that once it's fixed or once it's improved upon will have the most significant impact in your business. I think I've said this before. Brandon Turner out there in the real estate world, he talks about, I think he calls that a most important next step.
I love it. Yep.
What's the most important next step you can do to get bigger, right? Or to get better? And I always use the analogy all the time of the golf swing. I'm terrible at golf, right? You go out in the range, you focus on 10 different things. You're not going to get better. Focus on one different thing. First off, just hit the golf ball, right? That's what you need to focus on.
I love that.
I think that's the biggest thing. But then I think once you figure that out, and let's just riff off revenue cycle management again, it's like, if I can bring this 85% collections percentage, that's kind of the overall general metric of like how RCM's doing, right? If I can bring that from 85 to 90, 5 points on I can't do math here, on $1 million practice, right? It's a chunk of change.
Sure.
50 grand, right?
Yep.
Right? Say you're a $5 million practice. Maybe you got 2 practices, $5 million. $250,000.
Yep.
So when you're looking down at the most important next step, it doesn't always have to go back to dollars. Could be quality of life and some other things as well. But that's a pretty big impact that you could have on that business, right? And so that might be the point is like, if I fix that here, it's going to make everything better. Dive deep and get into that. But I think that's the biggest thing I see is you just focus on too much at once.
Yeah, I think one exercise we use that I thought we might share is when we're kind of looking at building out initiatives based upon those areas of focus, which I love, should be based upon ROI, whatever return, however you identify that. Your example is perfect. This could save us $50K. That's a big return. So, one thing that we do that we've kind of learned over the process is when you're looking at all these initiatives and there may be 10 and you want to do 3, is a quick exercise called keep, combine, or kill.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that are the highest impact the quickest, those are good keeps. A lot of times what you'll find is that a lot of these are all kind of connected. A couple of them maybe could consolidate it into one initiative, so maybe you could even combine. And then there's some that just not right now. Maybe they're next level, maybe they're 2.0 to get where you want to be. So that's just a really quick exercise that we do that I think could be really easy way to take that list of 10 and whittle it down to 3.
That's it. Whittle it down to the ones that are going to make the impact.
I love it.
You know, and the last thing I'll say on this is, this could be another video too, but like once you have that big overarching goal,
Yep.
and I would agree with what you said, it's fine to have those big areas of focus.
Yep.
Yeah, we need to focus on revenue cycle management. Then you got to get a little deeper. Okay, what do we need to fix in revenue cycle management?
Yeah.
And I said reverse engineer right into a daily, weekly, monthly. I think it's very, very, very key. I'm not saying everything in the world can be tackled or handled by checklists.
Yeah.
But I'm a firm believer that if you can look at those tasks or whatever's happening in that RCM department and break it down to, hey, on a daily basis or weekly basis, if I do these things 80 to 90% of the time, then the output is going to be better.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if you put that checklist in place or whatever, and you have the right things on that checklist, that then all you got to do is do the checklist. And I guarantee you that if 80 to 90% of those things are done at the end of the quarter, you're going to have that completed. Everything builds on itself.
Yep.
The hard part is staying accountable and actually doing it.
Jared,
Easier said than done.
100%. This is great stuff, guys, and we do this. I mean, this is something Jared is an ops ninja. He's really good at it. He kind of forces us to be disciplined and accountable, and it works for us. And I think we've seen it work for a lot of others as well. So let's go out. Let's have a great 2025, Jared.
Let's do it. Let's get better.
All right. You bet, buddy.
See ya.